Hi, I'm Fiona McConnell. I'm coming to you today from Melbourne. Um, I'm on the lands of the Wurundjeri and the Boonwurrung people, who always have been and always will be the traditional owners and custodians of this land, to which sovereignty has never been ceded. I acknowledge and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Today I'm going to talk to you about the decorative borders in the Rothschild Prayer Book. The decorative borders that embellish and frame the pages of a medieval illustrated book are often overlooked by art historians and book designers who focus more upon the miniatures, the text, the initials, the marginalia, the glosses, the materials, and the production methods. The decorative borders are seen, they're appreciated, but they're dismissed as being just decorative. Today I'm going to demonstrate that the variety of sumptuously decorated borders in the early 16th century Rothschild Prayer Book are a vital functional element of the book. And they function in three ways: to unify the decorative program of each page of the book and of the book as a whole on a formal aesthetic level. They also obviously add beauty to the page, but they convey an order of wealth and luxury and splendor and power, displaying the status of the person who commissions them, who possesses them, and who gifts them to others, a princely gift indeed. They also facilitate and enhance the reader's connection to the contents. They function as a catalyst for devotional practices and a spiritual contemplation, and demonstrate the piety also of the owner. So I'll begin with a brief background of the prayer book and a brief description of it before moving on to explore how each of these three functions occur on just so many different levels. Before that, for those of you who are wondering, the image is on the screen. On the left, we have St. Lawrence, the suffrage of St. Lawrence, and on the right, the suffrage of St. Vincent of Saragossa, which exemplify the decorative border program we're about to explore, but also show that there were some formulas being used by the artists as well, as our two saints look rather similar. Here we see an example of another decorative program, but using the same format. This is the Annunciation, the Hours of the Virgin Matins, and it is decorated with woven branches with gems. So the Rothschild Prayer Book was produced in Ghent at the height of the Flemish Renaissance around 1505. It's considered to be the peak of illustrated manuscripts art before printing took over, and it's also seen as the final flourish of the art of the book before the production of such prayer books were ended by the Reformation. The illustrations, the miniatures, the borders, and the initials were painted in the Ghent Bruges style by preeminent artists of the Flemish Renaissance, including Gerard Herrenboot, Simon Benning, and his father Alexander Benning. The book is in pristine condition, and it's thought to have remained closed for most of its 500-year life. So the pigments are very bright, and the gilt still glitters. It was created for an unknown member of the Habsburg Imperial Court as part of a commission of 19 texts. So there was someone there who wasn't just wealthy enough to order one of these, but 19, which is very impressive. It's called the Rothschild Prayer Book because the only part of its provenance that is known for certain is when it was added to the Rothschild family collection in the late 19th century. It was taken from them during World War II, eventually restituted by the Austrian National Library in 1999 when they promptly sold it. It was put up for sale again in 2014 and purchased by the Kerry Stokes Collection for $15.5 million. It now resides here in Australia in Perth and is considered the finest example of an illuminated manuscript in private hands. Here we see the suffrage of St. Mary Magdalene, which is also decorated in the strewn flower style. So the Rothschild Prayer Book is a book of hours, use of Rome. The text is in Latin and it's written in a Gothic rotunda script in black ink. It is on vellum. The size, it's quite small, very human scale, as you can see on the side here. It's 22 by 8 centimetres by 16 centimetres. So it's designed to be held in the hands or in the lap close to the reader and to their heart and their eyes. Over half of the prayer book is, the outside of the text is embellished with a very complex pictorial program. Of the 252 pages in the book, over 150 have miniatures and with decorative borders around the text. So such comprehensive and full borders throughout an entire manuscript are rare, even in the most expensive of these books. And the program of Renaissance marginalia really demonstrate the skill of the artists, and they're playing and experimenting with reality and illusion in entirely new ways. So let's just do a quick look at the decorative program of the page. Here we have the Suffrage of St. Peter, which is also in the strewn flower style. So this is the most common style that is used throughout the book, although as you see shortly, there are other styles that are used as well. So what do we see here? We see a single artwork that is laid out across the 2 pages. We have the framed miniature, painted as if viewed through a window in the page, opening into its own illusionistic space. So the artist showing off their grasp of perspective. We have a framed text box with an inset illuminated initial of acanthus leaves on a gold background, which replicates the gold of the decorative border. The illuminated initial design functions as a transition. It links the text in the box with the border that surrounds it, and uses this border background colour and the acanthus leaf motif, which reappears throughout the book, to create the text letter. Surrounding these features are this wonderful wide gold border on each side with a larger bas-relief below. The border is decorated with a trompe-l'oeil depiction of strewn flowers with insects. You can see a fly there, and I think a worm and a butterfly, and also a small figure of a hunter with a dog, and he's raising his sword against a wild animal. That's there in the bottom left. These are there are large margins on the page around the decorated borders, which this much empty space is very much seen as a sign of wealth, that it could be left blank. And it also serves to protect the artwork from damage, especially by oils from the reader's fingers as they turn the pages, and also from damage, obviously. Just look in closely there and note the subtle frames that appear around each element, which are created by shading. And they create a series of picture frames. So there's the outside framing of the border, and then the miniature has a frame, and then the text box has a frame, and then the initial also has a frame. And these frames serve to create multiple spatial frames, multiple spatial planes within the page. The 3D flora and fauna appear to sit in a plane in front of the decorative border, but the text box can appear to be inset into the border or to float on top of it, as with the inset initial. The miniature within the window reveals a space that is receding behind the page, and the interactions between these different planes on the page can be quite mesmerizing as the eye tries to understand where the elements sit in relation to each other and also to reality. And something else that impacts that is if you look at the plane of the border, it appears to be a horizontal plane with everything floating on top of it. But then you have the little creature, little man and his dog, the vignette in the bottom left corner, and they are standing on the ground, which is now vertical. So that's another interesting little illusion that they've included there. So the design of these borders, which utilises the layout, the colour, the framing, the style and the motif, bring together all of the elements on the pages to create a unified composition and this single artwork that spreads across both. So it's worth pointing out that each artwork is unique, even if they're in the same style. And we will show you some more of these styles now. So the design template unifies the decorative program of the book as it's repeated as a basis for a variety of illusionistic styles and motifs. Some of these styles are frequently repeated, as we've seen with the trompe-l'oeil strewn flower style, which we also have here in the suffrage of St. Helena in the top left. And also the acanthus leaves design, which we can see here in the bottom left in the preparation of the thurible and Mass of the Holy Spirit for Tuesday. A wonderful, really 3D, lots of depth in that miniature there. In the top right, we have what's the carved wood, Gothic carved wood architectural style, showing the suffrage of St. Anthony. This particular style is repeated quite frequently as it indicates the importance of the figure represented, and you can also see some saints in those carvings around that figure. It's often used also to decorate miniatures of the Virgin Mary. Some styles appear just once to emphasize an important page, and we have one of those here in the bottom left, where we have a miniature of a burial in a Flemish churchyard, and it's an office of the dead. And this is decorated with the more carved Gothic wood, and these skulls and bones seemingly shelved in a wooden cabinet. The variations on a theme of the border show the skill of the artist, and it's just such a really high level of craftsmanship that was available in the Flemish book industry at the time, and it really shows them off, and it shows off the wealth of the patron who could afford them. Here we have some other styles that demonstrate this wealth particularly, and also the piety of the owner of the book. This displays the splendour and wealth also of the Dutch court and of the trading nation of Flanders. And if we look here on the top left, we have the suffrage of St. James, which is decorated with a pattern comprising gems, shells, beads and jewels, and also includes a tiny vignette of the crucifixion in the top right of the page. Below, in the lighting of the candles at the offertory, which is a Mass for the dead for Friday, we can see these damask fabric borders, which show this is one of the primary exports of Flanders at the time. So it's almost a little bit of an advertising brochure in some ways for Flanders itself. And on the right, we have this wonderfully dramatic miniature of the suffrage of St. Francis receiving the stigmata and surrounded by these sumptuous peacock feather borders. Now, this is really unique, and it highlights the importance of the narrative that's being told, and it's really designed to be memorable and to help you remember the words of the text. However, the most luxurious and expensive borders featured are those which have a miniature in the border of a miniature, or a miniature in the border of the text box, because these are the most expensive to produce. So there are 3 miniatures in this double page spread, and it indicates a narrative that is of very high importance, which in this case is the Nativity. Each miniature on the page tells a different part of the story. So we have Joseph and Mary in the bottom left, trying to get a place in the inn, and then the inset miniature is the Nativity itself, everyone around the manger. And then if you look in the top left, we have the shepherds being given the good news and rejoicing in the hills. And then on the right hand side of the page, We have the shepherds that are dressed in contemporary Flemish garb. It's a very sweet painting, and it makes the text more personal to the reader as it links the world in the book to the world of the reader. So these decorative borders actually facilitate the connection of the reader to the prayer book. And it's for their devotional practices and signals the hierarchy of the texts and the narratives. It eases their navigation through the book, and it also very much aids their memorization of the text. The narrative of the Virgin and Child with the Angels, which is the Hours of the Virgin for Saturday, which you can see here. It's a very important narrative, and we can tell that it is because we have the Gothic carved wood architectural features, but also the extensive use of the expensive blue pigments. So each double page spread is an artwork designed for an intimate and personal devotional practice, and it functions as a catalyst for these practices and for spiritual contemplation. The embellishments of the border create an immersive space where the reader is invited into the spiritual realm of the Christian tradition and given a focus for meditation. They can delight in the beauty of the decorations and the skill of the artist in creating these lifelike depictions of nature and objects. They can use these images as a focus for meditation and as a memorization tool to bring to mind the words of the prayer. This immersive experience is created by these margins that seem to collapse the world of the book and the world of the reader and bring them together. Also through the border, creating multiple spatial planes on the page that mesmerize the reader by creating these illusions that play with their perceptions. And also the flat expanse of the page being contrasted with the illusion of the recession into depth that really draws the eye into the image. So the complexity of the elements of the page and their relationships actually make it quite difficult for the eye to come to rest on any one element. And so this can be, again, quite mesmerizing, and you're kind of looking and there's nowhere to stop. I think it's also worth noting that these borders create a kind of liminal space between the real world and the spiritual world, and they kind of allow this mental transition from one mental state into one of prayer and contemplation. Finally, we have the Flight into Egypt, which is the Hours of the Virgin Vespers. And as you can see here, we have a hybrid page, which is unique, with strewn flowers on the left and gems, beads, pearls, and vignettes in brooch patterns on the right. This is just an absolute wealth of decoration, which will provide a focal point for the readers and their prayers. As you can see, the two pages are really cleverly joined by the illuminated initial with its gold background and the acanthus leaf design. And you can really imagine the reader just losing themselves in the visual delights of the page and also displaying it for the awe and the wonder of those around them. You can see there that there's a couple of vignettes in this border, which would have been focuses for meditation, and for meditation, and the gems would also be used as a focus. So in conclusion, today I've demonstrated that the sumptuously embellished borders of an early Renaissance illuminated manuscript, as exemplified by the Rothschild Prayer Book, are actually really vital to the use and the functioning of the prayer book. And the prayer book actually shouldn't read the artistic decorative framework. They really can't be looked at in isolation. You know, the miniature is designed to be seen within the border. The text is designed to be seen within the border. The borders are designed around, so it actually all functions together. And I think that this definitely requires more research, because often people just pull the miniature out of the picture and look at that and decode it in isolation.
So there's definitely room for a lot more research, as there isn't much out there at the moment. So in conclusion, I've demonstrated that these are vital to the functioning of the prayer book, and that they function on multiple levels for this aesthetic design of the page and the book. They display wealth, splendour, power and piety of the reader, the commissioner and the gifter, if they are a gift. They also enhance the reader's devotional practice and spiritual meditative contemplation. I hope that I leave you today with a new appreciation of the value and role of the embellishments in the borders of the illuminated manuscripts, and I hope this book comes to your city soon so that you can see it in person for yourself. Thank you very much.